Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be immersing ourselves in a world that is just incredibly structured, it's high stakes, and frankly, it looks completely exhausting.
It really does.
Our mission here is to take you, the listener, inside a single day. We're looking at June 20th, 1906, and we're going to be sort of silent, observant witnesses to the lives of two young women.
And their existence, I mean, on the surface, it looks like one of comfort, of leisure.
Right, exactly. But what we're going to see is that it's actually defined by this intense professional strain, constant emotional constraint, and a struggle for any kind of agency that, often went completely unseen by the outside world.
What we have here is it's a window. It's a window into the reality of a very specific social contract. The individual who recorded all these observations, their explicit aim was to create a faithful outline. That's the phrase they use.
Faithful outline.
Yes, of these obscure figures. And they argue that while the men strut more prominently across the stage, it's women like these who hold this critical, almost manipulative position.
Manipulative? How so?
Well, the description is that it's a position not unlike that of the showman's hand in the dance of the marionettes.
Wow.
So they're the unseen force. They're the hand that's determining the whole figure of the social dance, even as they appear to be, merely decorative.
That is a fascinating and, I have to say, a pretty chilling image. The idea that their entire lives are spent pulling the strings for an audience that doesn't even know they're capable of directing anything.
Mm.
So our focus is on two sisters. They're from a very well-established, official, respectable family. We have Phyllis, who is 28, and her sister Rosamond, who's 24.
And what's immediately striking is the contrast right there within their own family. As you said, they're two sisters, but they are two of 5 daughters.
Right. And the other three, they followed paths that offered at least some semblance of independence. They went to college, they married academics, one married very early, and just got out of the specific sphere of pressure.
And those 3 sisters are, for the purposes of this observation, they're effectively dismissed. They're seen as irrelevant to this particular inquiry because their careers have, quote, so much likeness to those of men themselves.
So their education, their life structure, it mimicked a male trajectory, and that gave them a kind of freedom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Phyllis and Rosamond, no. They're the ones who inherited what's described as the frivolous domestic of lighter and more sensitive temperaments. They are the absolute epitome of their designated station.
And what is that station?
The daughters at home. And that label, it dictates their entire purpose.
The daughters at home. It's a title that sounds so soft, doesn't it? But it implies this incredible rigidity.
It's a cage.
It is. And when we first see them, the picture is, on the surface, very appealing. They're described as pretty, pink-cheeked, vivacious, but the observer notes this vital distinction that just cuts right to the heart of their performance.
With it.
Their beauty is more effect than substance. It is their dress and demeanor that give them the effect of beauty without its substance.
And that one line, that's a statement about immense social expenditure, isn't it? Their attractiveness isn't accidental. It's not just inherent. It's a high-maintenance professional facade.
It implies hours and hours of conscious effort.
Not just in their toilet, but in the way they hold themselves, the way they move. The entire veneer they present to the world. It's a manufactured, curated charm. And it is absolutely necessary for the environment they inhabit. Everything about them is calibrated for effect.
And that focus on effect, it brings us directly to their environment, which the source material frames so powerfully. These women are described as being indigenous to the drawing room.
Indigenous, that's a strong word.
It is. They were, metaphorically, born in silk evening robes, and they've never trod on anything rougher than a Turkey carpet. This space, the drawing room, it's not just where they socialize, it is their native air.
It's their place of business, their professional arena.
Exactly. And that is the central, brutal paradox of their whole existence, isn't it? Society sees them as existing purely for leisure, for pleasure, but they view the drawing room as their factory floor.
This metaphor of work is just so profound here. They're actively practicing arts. They were, as the observer puts it, instructed since childhood to acquire one thing.
Security.
Security. The entire social scene, every party, every dinner, it represents intensely serious work. And the goal is to win victories and earn their bread.
And when you say earn their bread, we should really pause and consider the historical weight of that phrase in 1906.
Absolutely.
If they are the daughters at home, they have no independent financial means. Their education wasn't for a career, it was for competence and social maneuvering.
Right.
So if they fail to win a victory, which means securing a desirable husband, they face this uncertain, potentially humiliating future of just dependency.
This environment isn't high stakes because of social gossip. That's just a byproduct.
Yeah.
It's high stakes because it determines their entire economic future. We are talking about their survival.
Pure survival.
Which is why this next scene, the analysis of the carriage ride home with their mother, Lady Hibbard, after an evening out, it's just so critical. This is not a relaxed family moment.
No.
This is an immediate, unsparing performance review. And it's conducted by the general manager of the entire operation, who is described as a severe critic.
So let's linger on that critique for a moment.
Yeah.
How comprehensive was Lady Hibbard's evaluation? Because it wasn't just, oh, did you have fun, dears?
No, not at all. She scrutinized these minute details. Did they look well, spoke well, behaved well? But then the criteria get even more complex, more strategic.
Right. She examined whether they attracted the right people and repelled the wrong.
And that's the key, isn't it? Attracting the right people is obvious. You want the prospects, the men with position, wealth, influence. But why is repelling the wrong people equally vital?
Because it's about their brand, their perceived value, their stock price in this marriage market. It depends on exclusivity.
Exactly. If they waste time or attention or even just a bit of conversation on unsuitable men, the poor, the unestablished, the socially marginal, it devalues their brand. It signals poor judgment.
It's a waste of resources.
It is. It's an exercise in maintaining a high barrier to entry, ensuring that every 2 hours of socializing is a delicate and complicated piece of work.
The pressure implied by that statement is just immense. It suggests that even one small misstep could derail a complex, long-term strategic plan.
And the response from the daughters to this relentless scrutiny, it's so telling. They answer submissively and then keep silence, just absorbing every piece of praise or severe censure without any pushback.
There is zero room for self-defense, no room for explanation.
None. It just underlines the sheer intensity of Lady Hibbard's control. She is not just their mother, she is their immediate supervisor. They are cogs in this apparatus, designed explicitly for marital acquisition.
They just have to accept the review. They accept the pressure. Because the alternative, challenging the system, it's simply unthinkable given their total dependence.
And you have to imagine that transition. From the artificial sparkle of the ballroom to the silent, submissive acceptance of judgment in the carriage, it must be psychologically devastating.
After enduring that professional critique, we follow them as they finally reach their own room. It's a modest-sized bedroom they share at the very top of their great, ugly house.
The attic, basically.
Right. And the single immediate action they take upon achieving privacy is to stretch their arms and sigh with relief. You can practically feel the mask falling off, the physical and the emotional exhaustion of maintaining that performance for hours on end.
That sigh is so powerful. It's the sound of the marionette finally relaxing its strings. And once that mask is off, the conversation they have is described with this striking candor. It's the shop of businessmen.
The shop of businessmen.
They calculate profits and losses. They are not talking about the play they saw or the book they pretended to read. Their interests are stated as, and this is a direct quote, clearly no interest at heart except their own.
That is a brutal description, isn't it? Especially given how meticulously they just chattered about books and plays and pictures at the party.
It confirms everything. The drawing room performance is wholly divorced from their genuine internal concerns. When they talk shop, they're analyzing the success of their maneuvering, the potential yield of the evening. They're purely self-serving and transactional because the stakes demand it.
But then, right in this moment of what's called unlovely candor, the observer offers this beautiful and essential contradiction.
Which is what?
Despite the ruthlessly transactional nature of their lives, there is a profound, sincere, and by no means ugly element. And that's their deep bond with each other. Their affection is genuine.
But it avoids sentimentality. It's not gushing.
Not at all. It's described as a freemasonship, a shared secret society built on mutual vulnerability, shared hopes and fears. Their bond is profound precisely because of its prosaic exterior.
So they aren't united by romantic ideas. They're united by shared peril in an unforgiving business. They're co-workers, partners, and emotional anchors for each other.
That's a perfect way to put it. And this bond, It manifests in a specific, almost tragic dynamic related to the pressure they face.
You're talking about the age difference.
Yes. Rosamond, the younger sister, displays a chivalrous attitude toward Phyllis. She insists that Phyllis, as the weaker by reason of her greater age, must always have the best of things.
And that detail is just heartbreaking. At 28 in this market, Phyllis is already categorized as being past her peak. She's the weaker.
Just for being 28.
Well, Rosamond at 24 still has a slightly longer window of viability, and she uses that small advantage to protect her sister. And Phyllis, in turn, accepts this preference with a certain pathos, a sad acknowledgement of her diminished market status due to the passage of just 4 years.
Their affection is a practical application of love, built entirely upon the harsh realities of their economic value and that ticking clock. It's self-sacrificing, yet it's entirely pragmatic.
And that rigid pragmatism, it carries straight through to the next morning. Despite their physical and emotional exhaustion from the night before, Rosamond ensures they adhere to the schedule.
She just jumps up, insists, "Phyllis, we shall be late for breakfast." There is no relaxing, no lingering. The discipline required for the daughters at home is absolute.
And the performance, it begins immediately. Even in their haste, they dress with great care and dexterity. The result is scrupulously surveyed by each sister in turn before they went down.
They're not just checking if they look tidy. They're ensuring the facade is perfect, that the armor is correctly placed before they have to face the rest of the household.
And what's the reward for this adherence to schedule and careful dressing?
A breakfast that is entirely silent and impersonal. Their father, Sir William, gives them a perfunctory kiss, reads his paper, drinks his coffee, and then just disappears.
And the mother.
Lady Hibbert remains completely aloof. She breakfasts in her own private room.
So it's an emotionally sterile environment. It just confirms their role. They are functional units within the house. They perform duties, but they're not engaging in any genuine emotional exchange with their parents.
The house is a machine, and they're just parts of its operational structure.
And immediately after this silent meal, they're back in front of their supervisor. They have a mandatory post-breakfast meeting with Lady Hibbert to receive the day's orders.
Write notes, arrange lunch and dinner with the cook. It confirms their status as functionaries. They're not just waiting for a husband, they are actively managing the entire social and domestic infrastructure that supports their mother's continued dominance and their own strategic maneuvering.
Their time is completely owned by the apparatus. Every single moment, even the administrative tasks, are just preparatory steps for the grander objective, marriage.
By 11 o'clock, they manage to get a brief retreat, a fleeting attempt at escape to the schoolroom.
An interesting space, the schoolroom, because it reminds them of the lives they didn't choose.
It does. And they encounter Doris, their 16-year-old sister, who is diligently working on a French essay about the Magna Carta.
And this contrast between the sisterhoods is just so stark. Doris is pursuing intellectual rigor. She's preparing for a future that resembles her college-bound sisters. So how do Phyllis and Rosamond view this genuine academic endeavor?
They dismiss it. They dismiss it as the mere commonplaces of daily life.
Which tells you how deeply that trade mentality has set in. They've been trained to believe that the true high-stakes knowledge is of social interaction, not historical fact or philosophy.
Right. Intellectual pursuits are for those who aren't, attractive enough or domesticated enough to secure a husband.
And yet, they themselves reach for volumes of Anatole France and Walter Pater.
That's the tragic part. It suggests that this fleeting, hidden longing for intellectual stimulation still exists somewhere deep down. But the demanding reality of their lives is never far away. It's a moment of weakness that's quickly interrupted.
And the interruption is explosive.
It is. The maid arrives, breathless, summoning them immediately to the drawing room. The crisis. Their father, Sir William, has committed the sin of thoughtlessness.
He invited guests for lunch without telling anyone.
Exactly. Two men, a Mr. Middleton and a Sir Thomas Carew, are coming for lunch, and he's given Lady Hibbert no notice whatsoever.
And Lady Hibbert's reaction is immediate crisis management. She's complaining about the lack of lunch arrangements, the flowers aren't done, she even needs a clean tucker for her gown. It's all compounding the pressure of an unscheduled performance.
But the daughter's response is the key insight here. They don't complain, they don't panic, they immediately spring into action, undertaking separate, desperate errands.
Phyllis has to go out into the heat of the London streets to procure flowers and an extra dish. Rosamond, the steady hand, has to sit down to sewing.
And their quiet departure highlights their routine obedience. They understand their father's casual thoughtlessness created this mess, and though they never said so, they implicitly take his side by silently executing their mother's emergency commands.
So now we need to analyze the guests, because one is the prize and the other is just the prop.
That's a good way of putting it. Mr. Middleton is Sir William's secretary. Lady Hibbert defines him purely by his potential position and prospects.
And thus, he's one who might be encouraged. He's the target.
He's the target. And Sir Thomas Carew, he's an official described as solid and gouty, but clearly of no individual importance. He's the ballast, the necessary piece of distraction.
So the lunch scene becomes this theater of strategy. And this is where Rosamond's analytical brilliance just shines, while Phyllis is engaging in the requisite sprightly conversation with Middleton, fulfilling the performance demanded of her.
Rosamond sits silently, observing, eating very little.
Rosamond, the chief strategist, understands the boundaries. Middleton is her sister's game she did not trespass. Her role isn't to compete. Her role is to calculate the risk and the reward for Phyllis. This is where her shop talk expertise is deployed in real time.
And we get access to her internal abstruse calculation.
We do?
What are the pros? Well, he's a good man, a good son, promises to be a good husband. He's well-to-do, excellent prospects, will make his way in the service. He represents total security and, crucially, parental approval.
But the cons. The cons are devastating. Rosamond, with her shrewd observation honed by years of analyzing human character, she sees the truth. He is narrow-minded, without a trace of imagination or intellect.
And she knows the true, painful implication for Phyllis's future happiness. Phyllis would never love this efficient, active little man.
And that calculation reveals the immense depth of Rosamond's loyalty, doesn't it? She is prioritizing her sister's potential emotional misery against the immediate screaming need for financial security. She is weighing stability against spirit.
And this profound internal debate, which is happening while Sir Thomas is droning on about India, it's all communicated across the table without a single word being spoken.
This silent communication, it's the height of their Freemasonship. It's spectacular. Rosamond's eyes telegraph the message. I am doubtful.
Just that. I am doubtful.
She refuses to give the signal. She won't give the green light to begin the full suite of courting arts. Instead, she sends a tactical command. Keep him in play.
Hold the line. Maintain the connection, but do not commit resources yet. The ultimate decision is delayed, but the risk of rejection is still on the table.
And the moment the guests depart, you can feel the atmosphere immediately thicken.
Oh, yes. Lady Hibbert, before her sacred rest period, pulls Phyllis aside for the private debrief. And she starts with this false front, initially showing more affection than she had shown yet. She pats Phyllis's cheek. It's a conditioned response, a reward mechanism based entirely on the assumption of a successful performance.
But Phyllis is listless. She's maybe too exhausted to maintain the facade of enthusiasm, and she gives the fatal, honest answer.
Oh, he's not a bad little man, but he doesn't excite me.
And in the world of the drawing room, that is a declaration of war against the family's strategic interests.
The shift in Lady Hibbert is instant and terrifying. The observer notes she transforms from this benevolent, purring cat to revealing the real animal now in sober earnest.
And the censure she snaps at Phyllis is just severe. It's delivered with this moral judgment. Remember, this can't go on forever. Try and be a little less selfish, my dear.
Selfish. By labeling her daughter's emotional lack as selfishness, the mother completely invalidates Phyllis's autonomy, any desire she might have for happiness.
She frames the necessary pursuit of marriage as a duty to the family unit. And Phyllis's failure to enthusiastically commit to a suitable but unexciting man is presented as a moral failing. That phrase, "this can't go on forever," it's a blunt reminder of the deadline.
The sisters meet right after this, communicating their shared disdain for the scene through expressive contortions of the lips. Phyllis laughs weakly. It's a laugh of pure stress. And they immediately prioritize securing some respite from the emotional fallout.
They retreat back to the empty schoolroom. They calculate that her ladyship won't want us till 4. In this space, it becomes their war room.
And the actions they take there are fascinating markers of tension relief and deep strategic contemplation. Phyllis, in a gesture of maybe defiance or just stress, she lights a cigarette.
While Rosamond, the meticulous analyst, she sucks peppermints. They are settling in for the most critical strategic meeting of the day.
And Phyllis, acknowledging this artificial and terrifying clock that's been imposed by their parents, she sets the deadline. It is June now. Our parents give me till July. Little Middleton is the only one.
1 month. 1 month to decide whether to accept the fate of marrying the efficient, active little man.
And this is where the dynamic dialogue comes in. Rosamond, despite her tactical caution at lunch, raises the unmentionable. She says, accept. And that pause just hangs heavy in the air.
It does. If Rosamond, who is the chief strategist and is trying to protect Phyllis, is the one to bring up this alternative, we have to pause there too. What does the source material suggest makes him no good thinking of?
It suggests something that is profoundly unsuitable for their system. Perhaps he's too poor, maybe he's from an unacceptable social circle, and this is the most dangerous possibility, maybe he represents a genuine disruptive emotional connection that they've been trained to fear because it might override strategy.
But Phyllis just immediately shuts it down, dismisses the very idea of that alternative. She knows what is required of her.
They immediately revert to the prosaic assessment of Middleton: clean, sober, truthful, industrious.
And they conclude that if she marries him, they would form a worthy pair, something like our parents. A statement that's delivered with this clear, devastating layer of cynicism.
The goal is to replicate the sterile, functional, and controlling environment that currently governs their lives.
Rosamond then reminds her sister of the ultimate motivator. They, their parents, won't stand much more.
And Phyllis confirms the existential lack of alternatives by recalling her father's blunt question, what I could do if I didn't marry, I had nothing to say.
And that is the crux of the tragedy. Their entire existence, every minute spent on that drawing room performance, is underpinned by that one reality. We were educated for marriage.
They have no marketable skills outside of their trade of social maneuvering and domestic efficiency. If they fail, they face complete social and economic oblivion.
This necessity puts Rosamond in an impossible position, but it also elevates her role. Phyllis openly admits she would accept or reject any man entirely on the strength of Rosamond's advice.
Rosamond's shrewd and capable brains have been, as the Observer puts it, driven to feed them exclusively upon the human character.
So her intellect, which was denied the usual outlets of politics or academia, is focused entirely on reading people, which makes her analysis generally trustworthy, precisely because she lacks that romantic bias.
So Rosamond delivers the final dispassionate tally on Middleton. Good moral qualities, fair brains, but critically, not a scrap of imagination or romance.
The strategic question is then boiled down to endurance. Is marrying him worth avoiding another year of slavery, just to enjoy the parade of equally dismal, safe prospects like a Simpson or a Rogers or a Lasseter?
The sheer exhaustion dictates the decision. They reach the tactical conclusion to mark time and keep up appearances.
Delay the commitment, but maintain the illusion of compliance.
And just before they end their session, Phyllis says something very revealing. If it weren't for you, Rosamond, I should have married a dozen times already. It implies this desperate impulsivity.
And Rosamond's response is so dry, but so deeply protective. You'd have been in the divorce court, my dear. This just underscores that Rosamond isn't just an analyst. She is a shield against her sister's emotional volatility and the disastrous choices it might lead to. Their bond is the only thing standing between them, and utter ruin.
Following that strategic session, the afternoon just descends back into mandated routine. Paying calls.
Which is the definition of a hollow ritual.
Absolutely. They drive solemnly, they deposit cards, and in one house, they stay for precisely 15 minutes drinking tea and talking about the weather. It's ceremonial, entirely impersonal, and crucial to maintaining their social visibility.
It's the labor of visibility. They must be seen doing their duty. And this is immediately followed by the slow, painful parade through the park, moving at a foot's pace among other gay carriages.
And the source material captures this monotony so vividly. Throughout it all, Lady Hibbert maintains her permanent and immutable smile.
That smile is the perfect symbol of their existence, isn't it? It's an expression of professional endurance. If the mother, the successful product of the system, has to lock herself into that fixed, visible performance, the psychological pressure on the daughters must be immense.
But then there's a momentary rupture in the routine. That evening, Phyllis attends a dinner given by a distinguished judge, and she goes alone.
And she's assigned to entertain a respectable KC. And, miraculously, her mother regards her with indifference. Her eye is focused elsewhere.
We should really linger on this moment of freedom. What happens when the scrutinizing eye of the severe critic is absent?
For Phyllis, it's described as a draft of clear, cold water. She's talking to an intelligent elderly man about impersonal subjects.
She is glad to realize that the world was full of solid things, which were independent of her life.
And that is a profound moment of psychological relief. For the first time all day, she is engaging with a reality that does not concern her looks or her prospects or her marital status.
It reminds her that there is a world outside of the drawing room, a world of law, politics, consequence, and that fleeting taste of freedom gives her the courage to execute her plan.
Which is to meet Rosamond later at the Tristrams in an unfashionable quarter of London.
And the journey itself becomes this intellectual exercise in understanding her own captivity. As the cab travels, Phyllis starts to theorize about freedom. She looks at the stucco fronts of Belgravia and South Kensington, the architecture of her life, and she sees a life trained to grow in an ugly pattern.
But as they enter Bloomsbury with its tranquil squares and umbrageous trees, she sees the possibility of growth as one liked. She senses room and freedom.
She realizes that the stucco and her pillars of her own neighborhood are protective structures. They were built to shield her from the live realities of the world. She understands her life is a meticulously gilded prison.
So Phyllis arrives at the Tristrams, impatient for this glimpse of freedom. But the moment she steps inside, the stark reality just hits her.
The scene is informal, it's smoky, people are sitting on the floor, the host is in a shooting jacket. This is a world completely untethered by the rigid rules of South Kensington.
And she becomes immediately painfully self-aware of her own costume. Her white silk and her cherry ribbons make her conspicuous. She looks like a museum piece, a figure Romney painted.
She just sits there silently, the perfect embodiment of her trade, in a place where such trading is scorned.
And the conversation immediately forms this impenetrable barrier. The group is locked in a hot and serious discussion about technical painting merits, and Phyllis instantly recognizes that her carefully crafted social tools or platitudes would be useless. They would never stand the test of this serious intellectual exchange.
Her drawing room skills, those feminine graces which could veil so much, they have no scope here. They only work in an environment that demands superficiality.
She feels pinioned, like a bird whose wings have been clipped. And she's experiencing a more authentic, deep-seated discomfort than she ever felt under her mother's scrutiny. She's exposed as being fundamentally unprepared for real life.
And this leads to her devastating self-assessment. She has fallen between two stools.
She's too intelligent and thoughtful for the frivolous, transactional world she belongs to.
Yet she's too poorly equipped intellectually for the serious, free world she longs to join. And Rosamond, across the room, confirms she is in the same predicament. They are both orphans of two irreconcilable worlds.
And even when the discussion becomes more general, the Tristrams maintain this challenging tone. They're scornful of the commonplace. This environment demands honest, unvarnished thought, and it quickly reveals how much their conventional upbringing has stuck to them.
Yes, they're dismayed, for instance, to find themselves instinctively disapproving of a light jest against Christianity. It's a sentiment that the Tristrams uttered and applauded easily.
They realize that their instinctive, emotional, and moral responses are still shackled to the very conservative structure they're trying to escape. They are mentally chained.
But the deepest shock, the most destabilizing realization, it concerns the very core of their trade love and marriage.
Miss Tristram, an artist, discusses marriage with a gentleman with complete freedom and this shocking frankness, theorizing upon the whole question openly.
This is entirely new territory. They had always flattered themselves that they were experts on the subject of love and marriage, but their knowledge was based on calculated manipulation.
Their experiences of love were induced by certain calculated actions, fostered in ballrooms with flashes of the fan and faltering suggestive accents.
But the Tristram's definition of love is profoundly different. Here, love is a robust, ingenuous thing which stood out in the daylight, naked and solid, to be tapped and scrutinized.
It's real, exposed, vulnerable, and this contrast hits them like a physical blow, leading to immediate and total self-condemnation.
They realize they are structurally incapable of this kind of genuine, naked emotion. They conclude that long captivity had corrupted them both within and without.
Their efforts at freedom are rendered vain by the reality that their personalities have been fundamentally warped by the system they live in. They sit there silently, feeling like people shut out from some merrymaking in the cold and the wind.
Their attempt to escape the gilded cage only revealed that the cage was, in fact, built inside of them.
And the profound silence of the two sisters, it eventually becomes oppressive to the Tristrams. Sylvia Tristram, intrigued by the contrast, begins a private conversation with Phyllis. She's interested in seeing herself reflected in these strange-looking glasses.
And Phyllis's response is just desperate and urgent. She snatched at it like a dog at a bone, wanting to explain what forbids her from joining their world. Her expression is described as gaunt and ravenous.
She's feverishly trying to peel back the layers of her artificial frivolities to find the solid grain of pure self hidden beneath years of social training.
Sylvia, being direct and unyielding, immediately presses her on the essential issue. What's your trade?
And Phyllis tries the initial deflection, order dinner and arrange the flowers. But Sylvia just cuts through the pleasantries, demanding the true answer.
And Phyllis finally delivers the brutal, unvarnished truth. That's my trade. I wish it wasn't.
And she defends her failure to escape by arguing that most young ladies are slaves, and she is simply an accomplished slave, fitted for her station, because, unlike her sisters, she doesn't have the internal reserves or brains to use them for anything else.
Sylvia then asks the inevitable question, do you want to marry? And Phyllis confirms it. But her explanation is a staggering expose of the motivations behind her compliance.
She says she cannot think of marriage alone as it really is or ought to be. The reality of love is completely overshadowed by necessity.
This is the core tragedy, the absolute revelation of their economic oppression. Marriage is always mixed up with so much else, she confesses. She spells out exactly what a husband represents in their suffocating world.
It means freedom and friends and a house of our own and, oh, all the things you have already.
It's not about romance. It is a practical escape route from her parents' control.
And Sylvia Tristram's response captures the horror of someone who has always known freedom. My God, what a black hole. I should burn, shoot, jump out of the window, at least do something.
The sheer depth of the darkness, the black hole, is revealed by the desperation of Phyllis's needs. She is seeking the basic rights of autonomy and space that Sylvia takes for granted.
But Phyllis, responding to that judgment, she offers a cynical, resigned conclusion. She doubts she or Rosamond could ever truly live Sylvia's life now. She expresses this profound sense of loss.
We think us merely fashionable minxes, so we are, almost. But we might have been something better.
Leaving the Tristrams, the sisters are excited but anxious. They're consumed by the need to analyze the immense discomfort and the truth they just uncovered. This time, unlike the previous night's exhaustion, they are not bored. They're reeling from a painful, genuine experience. And Phyllis' self-examination, it leads to genuine depression. She realizes she's stranded fit only to criticize both worlds and feel that neither gave her what she needed.
She's too intelligent for her conventional world, but too conditioned to fit into the intellectual world. She's professionally, emotionally, and socially homeless.
Her fit of honesty concludes so tragically. She realizes that talking does no good. The self-analysis is just too painful.
And her last thought of the night is that the busy, full day Lady Hibbert has planned for tomorrow, including a river party, is a relief. Because in the demanding, scheduled performance, she need not think.
The irony is crushing. The profound psychological cost of self-analysis immediately drives Phyllis back to the structure of slavery. She finds comfort in the scheduled performance because it removes the burden of agonizing decision-making and painful self-awareness. It just demonstrates how deeply ingrained the conditioned response to external control truly is.
So if we synthesize this deep conflict, we see the intense strategic work of the drawing room, the minute-by-minute performance, the calculation of the Middleton strategy, the sheer effort of maintaining the facade, all facing off against the gnawing emptiness exposed by the Tristram's brutal intellectual honesty.
They are caught. They're caught between the life they were trained for and the life they admire, but they feel utterly corrupted out of achieving the latter.
And this leaves us with a provocative thought that brings us back to Rosamond, the steady analyst and the silent partner in all of this.
While Phyllis is grappling with the emotional shock and making this desperate confession, Rosamond's shrewd and capable brains are constantly at work. She understands the game better than anyone.
She's the one who calculated that Middleton wasn't worth a year of misery. And she's the one who suggested the unmentionable, except...
Her silence and her refusal to yet engage in her own marriage prospects, it suggests she might be calculating an opportunity far more radical than her sister faces, one that avoids the binary choice between security with a boring man or social oblivion.
So is Rosamond waiting for a strategic, non-traditional escape route that her analytical mind has already identified? Is her quiet calculation the most revolutionary act of all?
That is something worth keeping in mind as you reflect on the high price of comfort and the desperate search for genuine autonomy. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the 24 hours that define the lives of Phyllis and Rosamond.